Hi everyone. Welcome to today's session. A very good evening to all of you. How are you guys doing? Hi Kriti. Hi Kriti. Okay. How are you guys doing? I guess I've got the session of this batch after a very long time. Um, yeah, so let me start by introducing myself for the people who are new. Hello everyone. I am Soumya and I'm going to be your instructor for today's session. And I am a software engineer right now at Microsoft working on the Teams application. Right now, I'm working as a front end engineer, but I have experience working as a full stack developer, and Java is my language in which I do competitive coding. And today I'm going to teach Java, so really excited for it. I guess my screen just refreshed. There's a very interesting question. Java is compiled or interpreted. Zishan, Java is both. It is a both compiled and interpreted language. So, basically, it is both compiled and interpreted. So see, what happens is that first, whatever source code you guys write, right? So that is first compiled. Okay, that's changed from the language that you have written in Java into a format which is called bytecode. So it is compiled from there, and when you run the Java program, okay, via JVM. So in that case, it they usually use a software-based interpreter, and the language is interpreted. So whenever you are asked that Java is compiled or interpreted, the answer should be it's both compiled and interpreted. So whenever I take interviews, right, a lot of students they say that Java is a compiled language. Yes, it is, but it is also an interpreted language. Okay. All right. Ganesh has a question that between confused between errors and exception. Yes, that is a very genuine confusion, Ganesh. So simplifying it for you, think of errors like something which has happened due to shortage of resources. Okay, so there's system resource which or something. Okay, some system resource has a shortage or something. Because of that, you land up into a situation that can be considered as an error. Okay, on the other hand, exceptions occur when like suppose you wrote some wrong code, so you can get a compile time, actually not on compile time. I'm not sure if that is categorized as exception, but I mostly see exception on runtime, right? So that is exception. Okay, Rishan has a question. I was confused because in previous class tutor told it's compiled language. Yeah, it is compiled plus interpreted. Okay, it's both. All right. So we have waited for 4 minutes now. I guess we should start. How many guys are there in your batch? Guys, how many people do you have in your batch? Any idea? 15, 20 come. Okay, no problem, no problem. Let's get started, okay? So the topic for today's class is, let me write just a second. Yeah. So topic for today's class is if statement, loops, and code flow. Okay, but we are going to cover way more than this. So let me walk you through the agenda for today's session. So first we will be talking about basics of Java. So when I talk about basic, we will see very basic thing like variable. All right, how do you declare a variable, or types of variable, and what do different types mean, the default value. Okay, we'll talk about these things. So till now I'm not sure what all languages have you guys covered, but the last language that I taught, it was JavaScript. Okay, so JavaScript does not has a concept of, like, it has different types of variable, const, let, var, but the detail in which Java has different types of variable, it was not there in JavaScript. So this will be a very new thing for you all. Okay, so we'll talk about basics of Java. Then we'll move to how the if statements, the conditionals and all. Okay, so let me just write conditionals, how conditionals work. So, yeah. So conditionals loop, they do not work different from JavaScript. Okay, so if you have, it is true for almost all the languages that if you know one language, okay, for all the other learning any other language is not difficult. Only the concept and the idea behind it, that is what you have to understand. Otherwise everything is just a syntax difference. Okay, now we'll talk about conditionals, we'll talk about loops, and we'll also see best coding practices. All right, this is the agenda for today's session. Should we get started? And yeah, please feel free to know whenever you feel that maybe I'm going very fast or maybe I'm going very slow. So feel free to let me know, guys. Okay? All right. So mhm. Yes, Ishwar, we can say that JavaScript is a dynamic language and Java is a static language. More than static, it is a very strictly typed language. Okay. In JavaScript, it is a loosely typed language. So what do I mean by a loosely typed language? So for example, you write var a. So a can hold integer, a can hold character, a can hold string, a can hold boolean, right? But when you write the same thing in Java, you cannot just write var a. Okay, you cannot do that. You have to strictly tell that what type are you expecting. So yeah, both it is a static language as well as it is a very strictly typed language. Okay. So let's get started with the basics of Java. So my idea is first on the whiteboard, I'll cover the concept, and then there's this online compiler that I use for Java. I do not have the setup in the current system. So yeah, this is the compiler that I use. I'll run over here and I'll show you. Okay. Let me just zoom in a bit. I hope it's fine. Let's start with basics of Java. Let's talk about variables first. What are variables? What do you guys understand about variables? Quickly in the chat. Okay. Binding. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Yes. Correct. So variable can be considered as a container of data, right? I can say that. So let me give you a visualization of the memory. So consider this is your memory. Okay. This is your memory. It is having different division, and in every row you can store something. All right. So when I say something like a is equal to 5, what it means is that, and actually before that I should tell you, memories have addresses, right? All of you know. So memory is one big chunk. Okay, suppose you have 16 GB memory, okay, or whatever x GB memory you have. So so memory is divided into small chunks. Okay, and every chunk has got an address. Got it? Any questions till here? What I'm telling is that the entire memory that you have, it is divided into small chunk, and every chunk has got some addresses. Okay, so say the address of this one is 1000. Okay, 1000, 1000, 1003, 1004. This what I'm telling, it's not just related to Java, it is a generic concept. Okay, 1007, 1008, so on. Okay, so when I do something like a is equal to 5, what actually happens is that, consider that 5 is stored over here. Okay, so there will be a variable a which will be pointing to this location. Okay, so there will be a variable a which will be pointing to this memory address, this location. So a is nothing but it points to where the data is stored. Okay, so that is why we say that it is a container of data. Got it? But actually it just points to where the data is stored in your memory. Got it? Okay, cool. Now, why? See, everything that you see nowadays, yeah, sure, Samapika, I'll repeat. So, what I'm telling is that if I write something like this, okay, I've created a variable a is equal to 5, and I write something like this, and this is your memory. So, what happens is that the number 5 which you're trying to store, it is stored in memory, right? Whatever you store is stored in memory. So this is stored in the memory of your system. Okay, and this variable, it just points to this one. Okay, so consider you cannot remember the memory addresses, right? It's very difficult to remember memory addresses. Also, it is not safe that you are given the access of memory address of the system. That is why we came up with the concept of variable. Variable will just be a, you know, a just be a thing which will be pointing to where the this value 5 is. Okay, so whenever you print a, so if I'll print a, it will print the value a holds. Okay, basically the value which a points to. Okay, and why is it called variable? Any guesses? Why do we call variable? Exactly, it keeps changing, right? You can change, it is variable. Okay, that's why. So I hope all of you have understood what is variable. Now, when you create a variable in Java, there are two steps. Okay, so first is called variable declaration, and another is called variable initialization. Okay, so see, one tip that I would like to give you is that whenever you learn something, okay, you are learning definition of something, do not just memorize it, but try to link it with things. Okay, that is how I learned. I always used to link it with the regular things that I'm having. So let's take this example of variable declaration. How can you link it? So what do you understand by declaration? What do you understand by declaring? You see how a holiday is declared. So we declare that it's going to be a holiday on this day, right? Or the government declares that it's going to be a holiday on this day. Or we declare our status. What is our status, right? We declare all those things. Declaration only means telling. Okay, think of it like telling. We are just telling something about the variable. Okay, we are telling about the type of the variable or something like that, but we are just telling something about the variable. Okay, we are giving some information. So specifically when it comes to Java, the variable declaration has two things. Okay, two things to it. First, you have to mention the type of the variable, and then you have to mention the name of the variable. Okay. So, for example, so in Java, I'll talk about the different data types or different variable types in Java. But right now, let's take one example, which is int. Okay. So, whenever you want to store an integer, we keep it in. So, like in Java, you had a variable type, right? Var, you had let, you had const. Okay, these were different types of variables. So similarly in Java, this is not there in Java. Okay, in Java, whenever you want to store a numeric thing, okay, I'll tell you the range. Okay, I'll be detailing you on that. But whenever you want to store a number, we store it in a variable which is called int. Okay, so the type would be int, and the name is, right now I'll say that you can give any name, but later on I'll tell you what are some what are some things that are legal and non illegal when it comes to naming. But that is how it happens. Okay, so consider this thing what I'm doing. So when I wanted to create a variable a which could hold numeric values, I'll write something like this: int a. Okay, so int over here is type of variable, and a over here is the name of variable. All right, and together the type and name is called declaration of variable. Got it? Any questions? Any questions till here? Okay. I am telling again that whenever you would want me to slow down, please feel free to let me know. Okay. Okay. Now talking about this thing, initialization. Okay. So what is initial? What do you mean by initial? So see, while teaching, I'm telling you like this so that whenever going forward you are learning something else also, always learn like this. Okay. So suppose I say variable initialization. So let's break it. Initial. Okay. So what is initial? Initial is starting. So initialization means giving a starting value to a variable. Okay. Got it? Starting value to a variable. So suppose I want to give a starting value of 5. Okay, so if I do so, see over here in step number 1 I have created this variable a. Okay, int a, and then in step number 2 I'll do something like a is equal to 5, and this will be called the initialization step. Now, in JavaScript, it was optional for you to put a semicolon, but it's not like that in Java. In Java, you absolutely have to put the semicolon, otherwise, it's going to be a syntax error. Okay. So, summing up what I was telling, whenever you create a variable, there are two steps in creating a variable. First step is called declaration, in which you tell the type of variable and then the name of the variable. The second step is initialization, in which you put the value of variable. Okay, so this is declaration and this is initialization. And it's not mandatory that you do these two things in a separate step. You can combine these two and you can directly write like this: int a is equal to 5. Got it? Clear? So this becomes the declaration part of the variable and this becomes the initialization part of the variable. So writing it together is also absolutely fine. Okay. Now again, when I say something like this, a is equal to 5, what it actually means is that in your memory, consider this is the memory of your system and it is having a lot of chunks. A 5 is stored somewhere and a is just pointing to that location where 5 is stored. Okay. Now, yeah, this is the basic of variables. Okay. Now, if you assuming that you guys have understood what are variables, type of variables, initialize not type but yeah, initialization, declaration of variable, let's move to something else which is very very important. Okay, which is called types of variable. So first, before telling you the type of variable, let me draw a structure of Java program. So, like we were talking about in JavaScript, so in JavaScript, it was not essential for you to make a class, right? But that is not how Java works. In Java, you absolutely have to make a class. So, what you will do is that you will have a class, okay? Say my class. Actually, the first letter should be capital, yeah. And then definitely there is a main method which is there in Java. Okay, public static void main. I'm just writing in short now. Consider it as having few things. And suppose over here it is your own, okay, my method. This is also a method in Java. Okay, this is how a Java program is structured. You have a class, inside a class, you have a main method, and you also have other methods, okay, which you have created. This is how a Java program is structured. Okay, now talking about type of variable. So the first type of variable is local variable. So local variable are variables that are declared inside the body of the method. Okay. So consider this is your method. Or suppose in main method you have declared a variable A. Now this A will not be accessible in my method. Okay. I'll give you a short demo of it. So consider that over here I've created a variable A, int A is equal to 5. Okay. And then over here I create another method which is public void my method system.out.println a. Okay, so you write system.out.println to print in to basically print in Java. Okay, like you have console log in JavaScript. Now if I run this code and let me show you the output that we get. See, you got the error that error cannot find symbol, which is a. Okay, why was it? Why were we not able to find it? Because a was a local variable, right? A over here was a local variable. Local variable is nothing but variables that are declared inside the body of a method. Okay, so what is the body of the method is denoted by these curly braces. Okay, like how is the border of a country denoted by I don't know, actually I haven't seen a border personally, but like I saw in one of the Bollywood movies. So there were some wires. Okay, there were some wires, and along the border of India, and the wires were denoting the border of India. Okay, so everything within the wire belonged to India, and everything outside of the wire did not belong to India. Okay, so similarly, when you talk about a method, say main method. Okay, so everything between the curly braces belong to the main method, and everything outside the curly braces does not belong to the main method. Okay, so Yeah, so a local variable is a variable which is declared inside a variable inside a method. Okay, and local variables are not accessible to other method. It will be accessible only to the method in which it has been declared. Okay, I hope it's clear. Any question related to local variable? Okay, let's proceed. So first is local variable. What is local variable? Variable. It is a variable which is declared inside a method. Okay, it is not accessible outside the method. Of course, like the method in which it has been declared. Okay, now the second thing is instance variable. So instance variables are declared outside the method. Okay. So say if I declare a instance variable over here, suppose I write int b is equal to 2, something like this. Okay. So this is not declared inside any method, right? It is not declared inside any method. It is declared outside the method. And there is also a static part to it, which I'll cover when I talk about static variable. But right now, uh, just remember this much, that instance variables. Just a second. Hmm. Just remember this much, that instance variables are non-static. Okay, I'll talk about more in detail later, but yeah, it is non-static. So these are variables which are not declared inside a method. Okay, it is declared outside a method. And what happens is that as a result, all the methods can use it. So for example, if I would be if I would have created a variable over here, int b is equal to 5, and over here I would have printed, okay, in my method also I could have printed system dot out dot println. Over here, if I would have printed, in both the cases it would have printed. Okay, right now it will print only once because I'm not calling the, just a second. Oh, non-static variable cannot be referenced from a static. Yeah, yeah, that's a problem. I'll discuss about it when we talk about non-static variable. Okay, just give me a minute, please. This is one way of creating an object. Okay, so when in Java, whenever you have to call a method, you have to create an object of the class, and then you have to call a method, the non-static methods. Okay, please ignore it now if object-oriented programming has not been covered for you for Java. Okay, so what I'll do is that this is just my way of this is just a way of calling a method. Okay, so let's print. Let's run now. See, it printed 5, right? So why did it print 5? Because b was an instance variable, right? It was not declared inside any method, it was declared outside a method. I hope all of you have understood. People, are you confused? Or is it clear? Okay. Now, I'm sure all of you would be aware about objects. Yes, Ishwar. Whenever you declare a variable inside a class, only the methods which are inside that class can access the variable. Okay. Methods outside the class won't be able to access. Ganesh, instance is like a non-static global variable. So global variable is any variable which is declared outside all the methods. Okay. So global variable can be static or it can be non-static. I'll talk about static and then I'll come back to this global variable question that you have put. Okay. So any questions, guys, apart from this? Okay. Let's proceed. So I'm sure all of you would be aware about object, the concept of object, right? You would have been taught it while you were talking about, while you would be learning about JavaScript, right? There was a lecture for object oriented programming. So what happens is that when it comes to instance variable, right? Now you tell me, can a class have only one object or it can have more than one object? Can a class have only one object or can it have more than one object? Correct. A class can have multiple objects. Okay. So say that over here, B is the instance variable. So consider that I've created this OB. Okay. And say I create another object OB1. So this is how you create an object in Java. Okay. So say you create another object OB1. Now OB will have its own copy of B and OB1 will have its own copy of B. Okay. So if OB does any change to B, OB1 will not know about it. And OB1 does any change of B, uh, OB will not know about it. Okay. So when it comes to instance variable, it's like there is one object. Okay. Suppose there is an instance variable B. So one object OB will have its own copy of B, and another object OB1 will have its own copy of B. Okay. So is this thing clear, people? Okay. All the objects have their own copy of instance variable. They do not share a common copy. Yes, it's not same. Sure, I'll repeat again. So what I'm telling is that consider you have got two objects. Okay, this is how you create objects in Java. So consider you created two objects in Java, OB and OB1. And this is one instance variable. B over here is my instance variable, right? So when it comes to these objects, this OB will have its own copy of B and OB1 will have its own copy of B. Okay. So what I'm telling that if OB changes the value of B to say 10 or 15, OB1 will not see those changes. OB1 will have its own copy of B. Got it? For example, let me give you an example. So, how are apartments built? So there is a blueprint, okay? A plan of one flat is made, right? A apartment has got several flats. So say this is an apartment, it has got a lot of flats. Now plan for one flat is made, right? And same plan. So think of this apartment, okay? Or think of these different flats as object, okay? So this is OB1, this is OB2, okay? And this plan, this blueprint from which this object has been created, this is class. Getting the difference? This is a blueprint, okay? Your floor plan and everything. And according to a floor plan, the apartments get created, right? So if there are 20 apartments, barely you will have, it's not like you'll have 20 different floor plans. Almost, yeah, there can be some changes here and there, but mostly it will be one single floor plan, right? So it's like OB, both these flats, okay, say 104 and 103. Both of them have their own kitchen. They have got their own copy of this plan, own copy of this flat design, right? Floor plan. Now, if 103 does some change to their kitchen, will 104 be affected by it? That change will not come in 104, right? It won't. Why? Because uh, these objects are so the suppose kitchen, okay, in this plan class there was a variable called kitchen. Now because kitchen is an instance variable, all these flats will have their own copy of instance variable. Okay, now is it clear that instance variable will have, every object will have their own copy of instance variable? Okay, that's very important to understand that it doesn't. So a lot of time you can get these trick questions, okay, that if I'm changing through one object, will the value be update changed or not? But no, that doesn't happen. Okay. All right, so this was about instance variable. Now the next thing that I wanted to talk about is static variable. So variables in Java are of three types: local, instance, static. So static variables are initialized only once at the start of the program. Okay, all the objects will share the same copy of static variable. So for example, consider the parking of this building. Okay, this is the parking. If the person at 103 comes and paints the parking, it will be painted for everybody else, right? So static variables, there are only one copy of the static variable. Okay. So a lot of new things have come using which you can make several copies of the static variable. But originally with Java, static variable can only have like there can only be like you cannot make multiple copies of the static variable. Okay, it is just initialized once, which is at the start of the program execution. And these let me show you first how do you create a static variable. So one more thing is that this was an instance variable, right? This was an instance variable b, and I had a static method, public static void main. This was a static method. So an instance variable cannot be accessed inside a static method. Okay, but if you create a static variable, so that is how you create a static variable. You have to write the static keyword. Okay, static int, say c, okay, is equal to 10. Now, over here, I can print C. So let's run and see. Okay, I got 5 and 10. Now let me try doing the same thing over here in a non-static method, and let's see what do we get. Got it? Okay, so do not get confused. Instance variable can only be accessed in non-static methods, whereas static variables can be accessed both in static and non-static methods. Okay? Any questions still here? Declaring a variable, type of variable, initializing a variable. Am I going fast? Just give me a second, guys. I'm sorry, the screen was refreshing slow. Let me see who's is the first question. Okay, can we declare a static variable inside any method or need to declare it outside? No, Abhinav. So static variables are also global variables. You have to declare it outside. Okay, you cannot declare it inside a method. Line number 19. Line number 19, Anmol, that is a way of creating objects in Java. Okay, like you create objects in JavaScript. So similarly, when you want to create an object in Java, you have to tell the class name, the name of the object, the new keyword, and then the name of the class. Okay. Samapika, what do you want me to repeat? No, Ishwar. Static and non-static are not similar to scope concept in JS. Okay, that is different. Samapika, static scope is global. Okay, so static variables are going to be global. The scope of static is global. Okay, this is what you were asking for. See, I'm accessing the static variable over in this method also and in this method also. Ganesh is asking, so basically we can access instance variable in any methods. Ganesh, we cannot access instance variable in any method because see, for example, this static method, right? It will be difficult for you to access, but yeah, I guess you, via object you can definitely do it, right? If you create an object of the class, it'll have that variable as well. Any other question related to whatever we have discussed till now? Types of variable declaration and all that? Anmol, the example that I have given you, I did not call any object over here. Instance variable in that object by calling. No, no, no. I did not do that. This my method is this method which I have created. So to access any non-static method, this is a non-static method, right? I haven't added the static keyword over here. So to access any non-static method, that is how you do it. Okay, you create an object of the class and then you call the method which you want to call. Did I answer your question? In this line, we are creating an object, okay? And using that object, we are creating an object of this class. So this object will have all the methods of the class, right? And from that object, we are just calling this my method, this one, this method. Did you get it, Anmol? Okay, all right. Let me know if you would want me to repeat anything, okay? Do not please shy away from that. Now, remember, I was telling you that whenever you create a variable, you have to mention the type of variable and then the name of variable, okay? So, remember, I told you that you can give any name to it, but I'll tell you about it. So, there are some rules which you should which you should follow to name a variable. So one thing is that I guess it is there with most of the programming languages that variable names are case sensitive. Okay, they are case sensitive. What do I mean by this? If I create a variable like this var with a capital V, and if I create a variable like this var with a small b, both of them are not equal. Okay, both of them are different variables. Got it? Variables are case sensitive. So always while naming the variables, make sure that you follow this. Do not create a variable like this and then try accessing it like this. Variables are case sensitive. Uppercase and lowercase are considered differently. Most of the languages are, like that. Now, the second thing is that a variable, so there are only two things or three things, okay, basically with which a variable can start. So this is about Java, okay? So a variable can start with a letter, it can start with a underscore. Underscore is this thing, okay? Or it can start with a dollar sign, okay? There are no so if I write a variable like this, a14 is equal to 5, is it valid or invalid? Quickly. Correct. It is valid, right? So a variable can have numbers and letters, but it should always start with a letter or underscore or dollar. Okay. Similarly, if I write a variable like this, 14a is equal to 5. Now tell me, is it valid or invalid? Is this a variable name? Yes, it is invalid. Okay. Now consider I write a variable like this. Dollar is equal to 10. Is it valid or invalid? Correct. It is valid, right? This is a dollar is a valid variable name. Same with underscore. Okay. Now the third rule is that a variable cannot have white spaces. Okay. So for example, let me show. So what do you mean by white space? The empty space that you have, right? So suppose I want to create a variable and I want to call it apple. Okay. I wanted to have an integer type of variable. I cannot write it like this. Apple. Okay. There cannot be space in naming of the variable. Okay. Clear? You cannot use space when you're creating a variable. If you anyway have to, you absolutely want to apply some space. So for example, you want to create a variable called my apple, so use underscore. Okay, do not use space. White spaces in variable name is not allowed. Okay, so this was about variable. Very simple rules, three rules. So the first rule is that the variables are case sensitive. Okay, uppercase and lower cases are treated differently. A variable can either start with a letter, underscore, or dollar, nothing else. Okay, and variable cannot have white spaces. As far as you're following these three rules, you're good to go. All right, whatever variable name you're creating, that's fine. All right. Now, the next topic that we have to talk about is data types. Before we move to data types, any questions on whatever we have discussed till now? Any questions? Yes, no? Okay, great, ठीक है, thank you. So let's talk about data type. Now, what is data type? So data type is nothing but it tells you the type of data that a variable can hold. Okay. So data type is nothing but it tells you the type of variable, the type of data that a variable can hold. This concept was not there in JavaScript, right? You would have just created var a, and inside that a you could have stored anything. You could have stored a Boolean value, whatever. Okay, but that is not the case with Java. For different purpose, different variable types of with different data types have been created. Now let's see what are the different types of data types. So very broadly, the data types are divided into two categories. The first is the primitive data type, and another. Any guesses? Anybody does? Do you know what it is? Primitive and correct, non-primitive. Yes. So the primitive data type has basically two value. It is divided into two categories further. So first is Boolean. Okay. So Boolean is nothing but true and false. Okay. And then it is actually not this. It is this. I'm not sure if you guys are aware about this wrapper or not, but yeah. Right now, just think that it is Boolean. It is true and false. The another type is numeric. Okay. So numeric is further divided into two things. One is called character and another is integral. So why are characters also called numeric? Any guesses? Why does character data type also come under numeric data type? Because every character is associated with a ASCII value. Okay. If you guys haven't heard about ASCII value, I would want that you research about it. Okay. ASCII. Look for it. Okay. Every character has a ASCII value. So ASCII values are basically numbers. So every character has a associated numeric value with it, and that's why we say that character is also a type of numeric data type. Okay. Now the character can so the type is char. Okay. For this Boolean type, the type is it's called this Boolean. Okay. And for integral, think of it all the numbers that you have, right? All the numbers. So what kind of numbers do you have in maths? What are the different kinds of numbers that you have? What are the different types of numbers that you have, guys, in maths? Yes, negative, positive, decimal, very good. Yeah. So when it comes to Java, the number type is mostly divided into two part. Okay, one is called integer. Integer is mostly like whole numbers. You do not have a decimal point in that. Okay, it is called integer. And the other type is floating point. This floating point over here means decimal type of number. Okay, which is having a decimal point in it. So that is it. And just one more category. So the integer is further divided into byte, short, int, long. Okay. Now why is it so? Because it depends on the number that you're trying to store. If you want to store a very small number, okay, suppose you want to store 10, you want to store. So see, what happens is that once you declare a variable, okay, once you create a variable, that much amount of memory is allocated for that variable. Okay, whatever amount, or how much data that variable can store, that is allocated, that is reserved for the variable. Now, similar. So what Java did is that they said, "Ki let's make different types of variable." Okay, So we'll have byte, short, int, long. So if you want to store a very small number, I'll tell you the range. So if you want to store a very small number, use byte. When you want to store a slightly bigger number, use short. When you want to store more bigger number, use int. And when you want to store a very big number, use long. Okay. But all of these are whole numbers. They do not have decimal point. Okay. And talking about floating point numbers, so it is divided into just two categories: float for small floating point numbers, okay, and double for big floating point numbers, okay. And remember, I was telling you that the data, it's either primitive and non-primitive. So non-primitive, there are few data types that come under the non-primitive category, which is string, array, class, etc. A lot of them are there, okay. But mostly string and array you would be using very often. So yeah, this is how the data types are there in Java. Any question related to Java data types? All right. From silence, I assume that there aren't any. Okay. Anmol, despite of having depth categorization, why is it slower than other languages? Anmol, Java is slower than other languages because Java is platform independent, right? And why is it platform independent? Because of having bytecode. So the source code that you write in Java, it's first converted into bytecode and then it is run, right? So that process of conversion into bytecode, that is an overhead. None of the other languages do it. That is why none of the languages are platform independent, whereas Java is. That is why Java is slower. Did I answer your question? I'll talk about in detail, Ishwar, that which data is stored by value, which is stored by reference. Okay. Zishan, actually, to be very honest, I'm not sure if it is slower than JS, but I've definitely seen that it is slower than C and C++. I haven't actually coded much in JavaScript, okay? Like pure coding, that the competitive coding. I haven't done that in JavaScript. I've mostly used C++, C, Java. So Java is definitely slower than. So in a lot of programs where I get the TLE, right, time limit exceeded, if I do it in Java, I get that. If I write the same logic in C++, I do not get it, okay? So yes. Any questions till here, guys? Any other question? So let's take every data type in detail and let us talk about it. Okay. So I'm sure you would be knowing a lot of them. So first talk about the Boolean data type. So Boolean data type, it can just have two values, either true or false. Okay, true or false. And consider, let me do over here and let me show you. Okay. I'll remove all this. I'll remove this method. Consider that we have created a variable boolean flag say true, okay. So this flag variable, it can only have two values, true or false, okay. If I give some other value 23, when you compile it, it will give you an error, okay. So let me first show you the true. Now when I print it, print ln flag, let's see what value do we get. We get true, right? And consider that I have declared a variable and I have not initialized it. What will I get? If I run this now, what am I going to get? Anybody in the chat? Okay. Abhinav says exception. What about the others? I want all of you to tell me what do you think about it. I'm not sure how many of you remember, but remember I was telling you that if you interact, it's much easier for you to understand whatever is being done over here. Okay. All right. Let me just run and show you. The output will come over here at the bottom. It's giving you a compilation error that it has not been initialized, but every variable has got a uh, default value. Okay, say you have created a variable but you have not initialized it, so the variable will be storing some value, right? That value is called default value, and the default value for a boolean type of variable is false. Okay, so that is it for Boolean type of variable. Boolean was very small, no problem. I'm sure you guys have seen the Boolean variable before also. The other type of variable is byte, which I'm sure would be new for you all. So consider you want to store a very small number, all right, extremely small number. And when I say extremely small, I won't just talk to you in the air. I will tell you the exact range. So when you want to store numbers in the range of minus 128 to 127, okay, this is a small number. So in this case, you always use the byte data type. Okay, this will help you have optimize your memory consumption. Okay, so consider, so what happens is that there are different data types which require different storage. Okay, so byte data types, this byte data type, it only requires 1 byte of storage. Okay, it only requires 1 byte. Now what happens is that suppose you want to store 10, and for that you have int. Okay, whatever you have, and int requires 4 bytes of storage. So even if you're storing just a very small number, 4 bytes will be occupied in that memory for this int variable that you have created, which is not very good, right? So that is why it is always advised that depending on what is the range of your input that you're trying to store, choose the variable type. Okay, other languages are not as choosy, but so see, in Java also, suppose you want to store a small number, you can store it in bigger data types, okay? But bigger numbers you cannot store in small data types, okay? Byte clear, everybody? If any, you want to store any number, okay, which is there in the range minus 128 to 127. So see, a lot of time we get this error. I'm not sure how many of you are into competitive coding, but a lot of time we get this error that, memory limit exceeded, time limit exceeded. So why memory limit exceeds? Anybody? Why memory limit exceeds when you're writing a program? So why it happens is that the platform has said that this program should take say xmb, but your program is taking more than xmb, all right, in which your memory limit has exceeded. So why does programs take more than this? Because you could have done with smaller consumption, but you are going ahead with bigger. Okay, so I am also guilty of that. Whenever I want to store a small number also, in that case also I'll just use byte, oh sorry, I'll just use int. Okay, which is wrong. It's not wrong, but it's not correct as well. Okay, so byte is used to store numeric values, which ranges from minus 128 to 127. So if you have to store a value in this range, go ahead with byte. Okay, byte only requires 1 byte of memory. Okay, Anmol, what do you mean by hashes? Like, do you mean the hash code, hash map, hash table, hash set? What do you mean by hashes? Byte clear to everybody? Any questions on byte? Anmol, it depends on the size of the encrypted data, right? I'm not into cryptography, so I'm not sure about like I won't be the correct person to answer it. Okay. Any questions about byte, guys? Okay. So how do you declare a byte type of variable? All you have to do is that just like I created this. Let me just write it A. Okay, so that it is generic. Hmm. Just write byte over here. Okay, and give it any value. Say 5. And let me just print. Let me just run it. Okay, you got that value, and default value for byte is 0. Okay, the third type of variable that you have, so see, byte is smallest. Okay, byte is smallest, that is the smallest data type. The third type of variable that you have is short. So short requires 2 bytes of memory. Okay. So whatever value you will be storing in short, okay, it will require 2 bytes of memory. So consider you're storing 1 byte data only, still it will capture 2 bytes of memory. Okay. Think of these data types like boxes. Okay. Consider you are shifting from one place to another. You have booked a truck. Okay. So this is your truck that has come, and you can keep boxes. So if you have to just keep a pen, will you take this bigger box? No, right? You choose box according to what you want to keep. So for pen, you could just keep it in this small box, right? So these data types are like boxes. So like the size or capacity of the truck is limited, similarly your memory is limited. So depending on what is the size of data that you're trying to store, try to choose the data types cautiously. Okay. So whenever you want to store something in the range of minus 32K, I'm not sure about the exact number, it is 32,700 or 800 something, from minus 32K to plus 32K. Okay, when you're trying to store any number in this range, you can use short. Okay, so these numbers can fit in short, and for short also the default range, the default value is 0. Okay, let me write it over here and show you as well. So say I say short and I say 5,000. Okay, now let me just run and show you. 5,000 is printed. Now consider I try to store 50,000 in short. Let's see what do we get. So remember I was telling you that short can store only 50 only till 32,000. So see, we got an error incompatible types, possibly lossy conversion from int to short. So because it is telling that you are storing this bigger number, it cannot be stored in short. You have to store int. Okay, you have to store it in an int. Got it? So the next data type is, and yeah, the default value is 0. I already mentioned. The next data type, so see, short, like I was telling you, that you can, so in short, you can store a small number, like 1. Okay, that's perfectly fine. You can, in bigger boxes, think of it like this. Okay, everything think logically. Try to relate it to your real life. In big box you can store a small thing, but in a small box you cannot store a big thing, right? So look at it like that. In interview a lot of time questions are asked that, can you store, say, short in byte, oh, sorry, can you store byte in long? So of course yes, you can store, right? So the another data type is int. So both byte, short are used for integer data types, okay, for storing numeric values. Int is also stored for storing used for storing numeric values, and int requires 4 bytes of storage. Okay, so even if you are storing a very small number like 1 2, it will take entire 4 bytes of storage. Okay, 32 bits in your memory, it's going to take that. So the range of int is 2 to the power minus 31 to or 32, something like this. Okay, 2 to the power minus 31 to or 32, something like 2 to the power 32. Okay, minus 2 to the power 31 to 2 to the power 32 or 31. Okay, check for the exact range online, but this is the range. All right, so it's a very big number, it's like a 9-10 digit number. Okay, so 9-10 digit number can be stored in int. Clear? Are you guys getting confused or is it fine? Okay, cool. Yes, Ishwar, correct. So, int can store minus 2 to the power 31 to 2 to the power 31 minus 1. Okay, this is the number that int can store. Now, remember, I was having a 50,000 over here I had created. It's, I guess, 5 lakh, but if I make it int, it'll work. See, it worked, right? We did not get any error. For int, also, the default value is 0. Okay. Now, the last type of data in which you can store whole numbers is long. So long is used for numbers which are much bigger than int. Okay. So int took 4 byte took 1 byte. Okay. Short took 2 bytes. Int took 4 bytes. And similarly, long will take 8 bytes. It's entirely double of that. Okay. Long also stores a very big number. I do not know the range. Let me check. Range of long in Java. See, you can store 2 to the power 63 minus 2 to the power 63 to plus 2 to the power 63 minus 1. This is the range of numbers that you can store in long. Okay. I hope these five data types are clear. Boolean, byte, short, int, long. Okay. Now, the another data type is double data type. So remember, I was telling you that both double and float are used to store decimal point numbers. Okay. So how do you store decimal point numbers? So um, if you store it using double, you can have two digits after the decimal point. Okay. So you can in double you can store something like 23.23. This is fine in double. Okay. But if you're using float, you cannot store two digits after decimal place. Okay. So you can store maybe just 23.2. Okay. So let's see it in action. So say I say float, this is float, okay? Float A is equal to 2.3. I'm having something like this, right? And I'll run it. Oh, sorry. What should, just a second, what is the problem? We shouldn't have this problem. Hmm. Oh, sorry. Yes. Thank you, Kirti. You have to mention this F as well. Okay, you have to mention F. Sorry, I just missed it. It printed 2.3, right? So, and similarly, when you wanted to store a double precision number, okay, so suppose I want to store 2.33. Let's see what is the error that we get. Oh, we got it. Okay, because we have mentioned F over here. But yeah, so but the thing is, mostly whenever you want to store double precision data, like the entire 64-bit floating point, so in that case you use double, and whenever you want to store single precision data, you use float. Okay, and how do you create double? Double is just like this, and instead of this, you will write D. Okay, I think for double, D is not mandatory, but yeah, no problem. We can write. You don't have to write D actually for double, I guess. Hmm. I guess it works without D as well. Let me check, okay? Hmm. For double, it works either ways. Hmm. Okay. Float and double, it's is very rarely used. Okay, mostly you will be using the whole number variables. The next variable type is char. Char stands for character. Okay, inside char type you can only store one character. You cannot store more than one character. Okay, inside char, so the size of char is also 2 bytes, but in this you can just store one character. Okay, so say you want to store something like a, b, okay, or let me show you, let say r. This is fine, but inside this, if I'll add more than one character, so you'll get an error over here. See, unclosed character literal. Okay, but basically the thing is that a character type can only have it can only store one character. Okay, but what if you want to store more than one character, like name of a person or something like this? For that, the type is string. Okay, so if I have rr whatever, and I create, so string is nothing but, think of string like a collection of characters. There are a lot of characters, and they're just together, and you use the string data type. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, one more thing. Sorry, I forgot to mention that when you create a string, you can so when you create a character, you put these single things. Okay, these single it's not called quotes, but yeah, whatever, the single, okay. But when you create a string, you have to use double quotes. So now it should work. Okay, now we printed it. So these are majorly the different data types when it comes to Java. Okay, I hope it's clear till here. Okay, so the next topic that we were talking about is, so we already spoke about string. Okay, string is nothing but it is a set of characters. It has got a lot of characters together, and you denote it between double quotes. Okay, whatever you put inside double quotes, that considered as a string. Now, in string, there are a lot of operations. Okay, there are a lot of methods that you get by default with string. So consider that I have a string called hello. Okay. Now, what I can do is that with string, we get methods like to find the length of a string. You have a property in array as well, right? Which gives you the length of a array. Similarly, when it comes to string, you also get a method using which you can find the length of the string. So say you have to find the length of the string hello. All that you have to do is that you have to do a dot length. This is the method. Okay. Let's print this and let's see. So we got five, right? It has got five characters. Now say I increase the length. Okay, I add one more character. So we have got six. Okay. Clear everybody about the length function? Very simple. With every string, you get a length function. Just call the length function on that string, and then you get the length of that string. Okay. I hope people are back and you can hear me. ठीक है. Okay. Thank you. Now consider that you want to join two strings. Alright. So of course there's a concat method as well. But in Java, how we simply join the string is by writing a plus. Okay. So say there is this string A, and if I have to join something, I'll just write plus world. Okay. Let's see how it looks. See, it is hello world. Okay. So that is how you can join strings. So this was just about concating two strings. And say you want to compare two strings. All right. So there is a method which is there for comparison also. So there is string b which also says hello. Okay. Consider that you print something like a dot equals. So equals is the method which compares. So it takes a parameter. Okay. So over here we will pass another string. So first string dot equals second string. Let's see what do we get. We got false, right? Now if I change it to capital H, we got true, correct? So it with this I also showed you that the Java is case sensitive. So yeah, this is mostly what you have to know about string. The another data type that we should talk about that we have already mentioned is called arrays. So think of array like a collection of similar data types. Okay, so you cannot store different data types in array. No, Ishwar, in Java we do not have double equal to and triple equal to. We do not have. Okay, why we do not have in Java? Because so for example, in the triple equal to also equates the type, right? And when it comes to Java, because see, JavaScript is not type distinguishing. When you write var a, you do not know the type. But when it comes to Java, it is type distinguishing. So you do not need a separate operator just to distinguish on the type. Okay, so we do not have that. All right, talking about array. Array is nothing but a collection. Like string is a collection of characters, right? Similarly, array is also a collection of similar data. What do I mean by similar data? That the data type should be same. So consider that you are creating an array, ARR. Okay. Inside that, if you store the first element is integer, all the other elements have to be integer. Okay. all the elements in the array should be of the same data type. You cannot have arrays of different data type. Okay. Now, how do you create an array in Java? So you create it like this. It's not as straightforward as creating a variable. Okay. So while creating an array, what you do is that first you have to mention what is the type of array that you're creating. Okay. So consider I want to create an integer type of array. So I'll write something like this: int arr. Okay. And I put this bracket denoting that it's going to be an array. And then I have to write this new keyword. New is a keyword. We have to write that. And then you have to write the type again. Basically the class that you would be calling. And then in the bracket, you have to mention the size of the array that you want to create. Okay, that is how you create an array in Java. So let me just create an array and let me show you. Consider I want to create a string array. So I'll have string arr is equal to new string. Okay, with this, I am trying to create a array which is of size 2 and the type is string. Okay, this has created an my array. This is just called creation or initialization. मतलब declaration का initialization. Not even initialization. This is just my declaration of array. Okay. Now, if you're creating an array, you would also want to store some data in it, right? So there are two ways. Either you create either you declare it separately and then you store data. Okay. So suppose you do something like arr of 0 is equal to hello. Okay. If you do something like this, and let me print arr of 0. Let's see what do we get. Where did just a second. Oh, okay, okay. This is the older program. Just a second. Let me just create a string variable, a string array, and I'm just printing ARR of 0 over here, right? So how you accessed array using indices, right, in JavaScript, that is the same how you will be accessing arrays over here in Java. Okay. So you get 5, right? So this part is called the declaration part, and this part is called the initialization part. Okay. Now, this both of these things you can do in one single line also. You can create an array like this, okay, and over here you could have just written 1 and 2. Now let me just print a of 0 and let's see what do we get. Semicolon. Yep. So we get 1 over here. Okay. Clear everybody about array? How do you declare an array? How do you initialize an array? And the thing that I did in line number 14, that is initialization come declaration. Okay. Both of the things that we have done in the same array. Okay. Now, if I tell you that can you access the second element in an array, how will you do it? Yes, very good, Abhinav. Ishwar, in line number 2, we are creating we can call it like an object, okay, which is a object of array, okay, that is what we are trying to create. And Ganesh has a question. If we try to access an element in an array which is not initialized, what error does it throw? Yes. So let's try that. I haven't seen that, or maybe I don't remember it. So consider that what I try to do is that I try to access like this. Okay. It gives you zero, right? Why? Because it is an integer type of array, right? And integer has a default value of 0. That is why you got 0. What are default values? If you do not initialize to anything, you will get that. Okay, clear now? Any other questions? Okay. The next thing that we'll talk about is conditionals, that is if else in Java. It is absolutely same as that you had in JavaScript. Okay. So consider what you want to, suppose you want to do something like this. Okay. Mm, say we have a number, int a is equal to 2. If so, see, let me first write over here. How does if else work? So it, like I was telling, it works exactly like it works in JavaScript. So it's like if it has got a condition over here, which should evaluate to a Boolean value, and you put the statements that you would want to do in the case of if, and then there is else, and you have your statements. Okay, exactly same like when you had in JavaScript, right? Exactly like that. So suppose I'm checking it for even and odd. Okay, so if I do a mod 2 equal to 0, can I say that it is even or is it odd? What is it? Quickly in the chat. What do I call this? What do I call it? Even or odd, guys? You don't know? Yeah, we call it even, right? So if a mod 2 is equal to 0, which means that if you are dividing a by 2 and you're getting 0 remainder, it's an even number. And then we have odd. Okay, let's do this. I have been coding in JavaScript so much that I've I've stopped putting semicolons. So in JavaScript, it's not necessary for you to put semicolons, right? So yeah, so it printed even, right? If I would have given 21. Yes, Anmol, there are ternary operators in Java also. Okay, we got odd. Any other question? So see, if else, I think you will not have very much difficulty in understanding because it is exactly same as the way it worked with any other programming language. Okay, now in JavaScript also you had nested if else, so that is also absolutely true over here. Okay, so inside if else you can have one more if else. So you can say that suppose a is, if it is a is less than 5, so we'll say it is a say a small even number. Okay, so if a is less than 5, we will say it is a small even number. Else we are going to say out dot println big even number. All right, so this I'm telling you to show that nested if else also works when it comes to Java, or it must be semicolon again. Yeah, small even, and say I make it to 20. So this will also work. So what I meant to say is that nested if else works. Okay, just like everything worked for JavaScript, everything will when it comes to if else, that will work for Java as well. Okay, now the next thing that we need to talk about is loops. So loops are also exactly same. Okay, like you had in Java, similarly you will have in, sorry, like you had in JavaScript, similarly you will have in Java. So there are majorly three types of loops when it comes to Java. So it is for loop, while loop, and do while loop. Now, when I'll show you the syntax, you will realize that both, like it's exactly same. Okay, I keep on saying that it is exactly same because it is. Okay, so yeah, what I'll do is that let me just copy one of this. Suppose you want to print the first five numbers. Okay, how would you do that? How would you print first five numbers in JavaScript? Quickly in the chat. How would you print first five numbers in JavaScript? Okay, Anmol, you have less clarity on line number 11. Okay, let's do one thing, guys. If I get some time, if we end up wrapping our session early, I'll talk about this. This is very important. I guess by line number 11, this is what you mean, Anmol. Okay, we'll talk about this. This is very important. Yeah, so there's another question which Zishan is asking: is there for each map also there? Zishan, yes, for each works with array list. There's a data type which is called array list. Map is also there. There's hash map. Okay, and okay, yeah. So you guys did it correct. So let me. So say you have to print first five numbers using for loop. You will do something like this: int I is equal to 0, I less than 6, or I less than, or actually you have to print first five numbers, right? So let's start it from 1. Let's take it till 5. I plus plus system dot out dot print I. Okay. You guys know the difference between print ln and print? All of you know the difference between? Okay, cool. Yeah, next line. I always wondered that why is it print ln? It should be print nl, right? New line. But yeah, that's how it is. Maybe ln stands for line. Okay, no problem. So this is how you print it, for like the print first five numbers. This was the for loop. If we talk about while loop, it's going to be exactly same again. Okay, so say while you have a variable over here, int I is equal to 1. Okay, let me remove this. While I is less than equal to 5, what I'll do, system dot out dot print ln I I plus plus. Okay, the same, again I'm telling you, the same syntax that you have been using. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5. All right, now if you had to do it using do while, again the same thing. The while will come over here, there will be a semicolon, and there will be a do in between, like in the beginning. Okay, so just the regular syntax of do while loop, and that is how it works over here in Java as well. Okay, all of you understand the flow of loop, right? So when I write something like say for I is equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus. Okay, so you know how the code flows, right? Anybody who does not know, it's there actually in your material. I did not discuss it because I assume that you know it, but if you do not know, I can discuss. Ganesh, no. All the three conditions are not mandatory. You can have an empty loop also. Maybe you cannot have this part, right? You can skip this part and you can do the updation in the body also. Like it is there with JavaScript, same it is over here. Okay. Okay, loop is a bit tricky. So let's see how a loop works. Okay. Let's write a very simple loop. For I is equal to 1. Just listen to me very carefully, okay? And then you'll never say that the loop is tricky. I less than equal to 5, I plus plus. System dot out dot print I. Oh, loop in loop is tricky. Okay, okay. Let me just show you the loop and loop. Or let's do one thing. First, I'll cover whatever is there scheduled for our material. I'll take another question. I guess somebody had a question with this line, like public static void main line, and then if we get time, we'll talk about nested loop. Okay. All right. First, let's cover everything. Now, yes, like I was asking, all of you are sure about the flow, right? All of you understand the flow. Do you want me to repeat it? How the code flows both for if else loop? Everybody knows about the flow? Okay, so I am not repeating it. We'll save time for, important things, or maybe something that you don't know. We can save time for that. Okay, the last topic that we need to cover for today's discussion is best coding practices. So these coding practices, it's not just related to Java. Okay, it's most of them are generic. Okay, so best coding practices. So what do you mean by best coding practices? It's like even if you don't use that, your code will not fail. You will get the output, but the quality of your code increases if you use these coding practices. Okay, so first thing, or very important thing, is that name your variables properly. What do I mean by properly? When you write an industry level code, right, a production level code, we whenever we want to solve something, so see, how did I write over here? I did int I, something like that. Okay, or I was doing a is equal to 5, b is equal to hello, right? We should never do that. Whenever you're creating a variable, make sure that the name is something explicit, right? It kind of tells that what is that variable holding. Okay, so consider that you're storing the sum of two variables in a variable and you're calling it s. You're storing s is equal to a plus b. Instead of doing this, you can do sum is equal to a plus b. Now, this makes your code very readable, all right? And anybody who is reading through your code, that person will understand that, okay, we know this person is trying to do this. Okay, so this is the first coding practice. The second is that use comments. Okay, comment out your code, because I'll tell you from personal experience. So right now, say you have written a code, how do you comment it? Just so when it comes to Java, just give double slash and you write a comment. Okay, something like a very short line about what is your code doing. It has got two benefits. First, your readability is enhanced. Okay, the readability of your code is enhanced, because of which it is very easy to maintain your code for others also. Okay, it becomes very easy to maintain your code. Now, the thing is, so if you don't want to think about others, okay, so think about yourself. So it has happened with me. So some code, I had done one personal project for Android, and I had written some code like 7 years back. And now I wanted to improvise it. So when I'm trying to do that, there are so many things which I don't remember, like why did I do this? Okay. But if you write comments, so it becomes very clear as to what you're trying to do, why are you doing, okay, all those things. So definitely try to add comment. The third most important thing is that indentation. Okay, let's talk about indentation. So what is indentation? Indentation is, do you see, after once a new block is starting, we are giving some space over here. So even if you don't give some space, it's fine. Like your code will run. Okay, but uh, it won't be called a good code. Are you getting it? It becomes, now just see it. Just a second. Just see this code. I'll just remove all the indentation. It will be very difficult for you to understand from where is one block starting, from where is another block ending. Do you see this? This is the code without indentation. Now, which one would you prefer? With indentation or without? Isn't it hard to read? You don't know where is the for loop starting, where, like, which brackets are corresponding to what, right? But instead, the other code that we were having, isn't it much easier to read? Right? So always make sure that you are indenting, and always make sure that the code that you're writing is reusable, it is scalable. All right, what do I mean by reusability? Reusability means is that whatever things that you can modularize, okay, think try to modularize it. Whatever things, whatever actions you can put into one function, so that that function can be used again and again. Try to do these things. Okay, so these are some good practices. Any questions till here? Anmol, so see, it's not like you should comment everything, okay? So you have to maintain a sweet spot between not commenting and commenting everything, okay? So that will be your personal choice. What I go is that, so I do not comment things like initializing the variable, declaring, creating a loop, nothing like that. Where I have a logic, right? Suppose I've written some logic. Suppose maybe extracting. So I've written one block. Okay, I've written one block of code in which I'm extracting digits in a number. So just on top of that block, I'll put a comment and I'll write extracting digits. Okay. So for example, if I have to write the code to extract digits, how do you extract digit? So for example, there is a number n. Okay. So I'll do, or maybe just do with while. So while n is greater than 0, every time I'll do d is equal to n mod 10, n is equal to n by 10. This is okay. So this is one code of extracting digit. Consider you're having a number n is equal to 546. Okay, so this code will extract every digit, and d inside d every digit is going to be stored. Now right now I know that yes, this is the code for doing that. But while comment, I can write like this, okay, extract digit. So, answering your question, you do not have to comment everything. You do not have to not comment anything. Okay. And just try to maintain a sweet spot. That's what I was telling Anmol, right? That have your variable names explicit. That your variable only tells that what is that variable trying to do. So you don't have to comment, because see, if you start commenting on variable name, it'll your code will have a lot of code commenting, right? And that too again is not bad, I would say, but is it not, it's not very good as well, right? So try to make your variable name, function name more explicit, more imperative, so that you can easily know what it is. Okay. Any other questions till whatever we have discussed? Okay, cool, cool. So we still have some time. We have to play Kahoot, but before that, I wanted to answer a few of the questions, a few of the things that you wanted me to explain. So somebody wanted me to explain public static void main. Who was it? How many of you want me to explain that? Okay. All right. So let's talk about that in detail. All right. Again, a very popular interview question. So public static void main. Let's take one thing at a time, right? Let's start with this public. Okay, this is called a access specifier. What does this mean? That uh, you know uh, how, from where can your method be accessed? So if your method, you are writing public, so it means your method can be accessed from any other file as well. Okay, a file which is not there in the package or anything like that. There are different access specifiers: public, private, protected, and default. Okay, so public is most public. Okay, so basically whenever you're creating a method and you're writing public, it means that this method can be accessed from any other file as well. Okay, maybe it is there in some different package, some different location, wherever is the file, that file can access this main method. Okay, clear about public? Okay, now let's try to understand the keyword static. So what this static means, do you remember, guys, this example that I had created let me just come over here. I'll be undoing while I talk. Remember, I had created a my method, and whenever I wanted to access that method, I was creating an object. Remember that? When I was starting the class, like in the initial part of the lecture, I created a method, my method, and whenever I wanted to, access that method, I had to create an object. I was not able to access that method without an object. I guess I'll be able to reach there. I'm almost there. Yeah. So why does that happen? Okay, because if you do not have, oh no, I had reloaded. Okay, no problem. So if you do not have the static keyword, okay, so to access a method, you will need an object. Okay, clear? If you do not have the static keyword, to access a method, you will need an object. But main method is the first method that is being executed. So सबसे पहले main method execution starts. So where will the object get created? This is the first everything that is being accessed, right? That is being executed. That is why we put static, so that we do not need any object to access, or any object to run this method. Is static clear? Why do you write static? Clear, everybody? Please feel free to ask me, okay? Or if you want to repeat it, if you want me to repeat it or whatever, please feel free to do that. Okay, now proceeding. Void. So void tells the return type. So every method returns something, right? A method, not every method returns something, but a method can return something, right? A method can return an integer value, a method can return a string value, whatever. But say you have a method which does not return anything. So for that method, we put void over here. Okay. So this main method by design, it does not return anything in Java. Okay. This is why we write void. Everybody clear about the first three things? Public, static, void. Why do we write this? What do everything, like each of them mean? Azharuddin, which one do you want me to repeat? Please tell. Which keyword you wanted me to repeat? Okay, by the time he replies, let's start with main, and then whatever he replies, I'll explain that. Okay, let's talk about main. Why do you have to write main only? Why can't you write anything else? So the JVM is programmed in such a way that in your code it will look for a method main to start the execution. Okay, this main method is an entry point. So JVM is programmed in such a way, it is coded in such a way that it will look for this main method. Okay, so it doesn't know where to start execution, it will just look where is the main method, and that is main method is the place from where I have to start execution. That is why we write main over here. Okay. No, Ishwar, you won't be able to do that. You won't be able to access a main method with an object. Where are you going to create an object first? Main method is the first method to be executed in a class, right? So, see, like in the previous example, I had created an object in the main method. So, mostly you will see that objects are created in main method because it is the first method. But to access main method, like if you want to access it using an object, you do not have a place to create an object, right? That's it. Okay. Now, static, I'll repeat again. What static means is that this variable does not need an object to be accessed. Okay. If you have created a non-static variable, you will need an object to, sorry, not access. I'm sorry. Why did I say access? To execute it. Okay. So suppose you have created a method which you want to execute, but it is a non-static method. So for that, you will have to create an object to execute it. Okay. Clear? Azharuddin, is it clear now? Static? Anmol, by default, there is like by convention, we just have one main method, but main method can be overridden as well. So you can have more than one main method as well. But in a program, we mostly have one main method. Yeah, Ganesh, I can explain the return part. Ganesh, do you understand function return? What is meant by a, so say that in JavaScript, I'll write the code in JavaScript. You have created a function, add. It it say it returns a variable sum. Do you understand this, Ganesh? What does this mean? Okay. So this is what is meant by return. Okay. Now see, when we were writing in JavaScript, we did not mention that what type of value will be returned, right? But in Java, you have to mention each and everything. What is the data type? How much data will it store? What value will the function return? So because this main method doesn't return anything, that is why we write void over here. Okay. Consider you would have created a method, my method, okay, which would have returned something, which would be a static method. So I'll write public static int my method. So in this case, your method will have to return an integer value. Got it? If it doesn't return an integer value, you will get a compile time error. I hope you got it now, Ganesh. What is meant by void? So void just means that no return. Okay, it's not returning anything. Okay, cool, cool. So yeah, this is what it is, and so main is the initial point from where the program is getting started to compile into a bytecode. Yes. So the program execution, when we say right that the program is being executed, The execution starts from main, okay? Or even if you have to convert it into a byte code, so it'll start from here, it'll see that what all things are happening, which all functions are being called, and everything will happen, okay? Main is the entry point when it comes to a Java program. Any other questions? All of you aware about the concept of bytecode, right? Okay, we just have few more minutes left. Let me just add Kahoot over here. We have to play that as well. Okay, all of you would be seeing Kahoot. Anmol, unfortunately, we do not have time for nested loop. It'll take some 15-20 minutes to explain. I'll see if in some other class we have, some time. I can take it up over there. Ishwar, comparison for JavaScript and Java, I'm not sure if there is some material like that. But for Java, I mostly prepared from Java T Point and JavaScript W3 schools. But I'm not aware if there is any material which would compare it. Okay, just give me a moment. I'll get it started with Kahoot. Nested loops. How many of you want to know about nested loop? For people who already know about nested loop, maybe you can chill for a bit, okay? But for others, maybe okay, I'll talk about nested loop then. What are nested loop? Loop inside a loop, right? So suppose I have a value like I is equal to 0, I less than say 3, I plus plus. Then there is for j is equal to 0, j less than 2, j plus plus. System dot out dot print I comma j. Let's see how it happens. What happens in nested loop is that for every value of I, the entire iteration of j happens. Okay, so let me show you. So what will happen is that initially the value of I will be, let's see the value of I and j. Okay, let's create a table. Initially, what will be the value of I? Guys, I need you to interact so that I know that you are getting what I'm telling. What will be the initial value of I? Correct, it will be 0, right? So it will come inside this block, okay? It will come inside this j block, and now the value of j is also 0. 0 is less than 2, right? So it will come and it will execute this thing, okay? So 0 and 0 will be printed. Now again, what will happen? How does a code flow in loop? So this thing happens first, then this thing happens second, then body of the loop is executed, and then the update condition is executed, okay? So the update condition gets executed. So what will change? The value of j will change or the value of I will change? What's going to change? Yes, the value of j is going to change, right? So we do j plus plus, so the value of j becomes 1. Now 1 is also less than 2, right? And it prints I and j. By now the value of I is still 0, right? The value of I is still 0, so it prints 0 and 1. Again j plus plus happens, so j becomes 2. Now 2 is not less than 2, so we come out of this j loop. Now this j loop is nothing but the body of this I loop, right? So for I loop, this is the initialization, this is the condition checking, this is the body, and this is the update, right? So now the condition checking has happened, the body has been executed, now the update condition will happen, right? So I plus plus, so I becomes 1. After the update condition, it will come inside the body of the loop again. So again it starts from j is equal to 0, so j becomes 0, and then j becomes 1, j becomes, yeah, that's what. And in both the cases I was 1. And then again, once the body of the j loop is executed, like the body of the I loop is executed, again I plus plus happens, so I becomes 2, and so on. That is how it is executed. Did I answer your question, Anmol? Are you clear now how nested loop works? Just remember the flow. It is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Body is 3. Okay. So when it comes to loop, initialization part is is first step that happens. Condition checking, right? If it is less than that, if it is greater than that, this is the second part that happens. The body gets executed, and then the update condition executes. Okay, this is the flow. Anmol, I hope I answered your question. Oh, okay. I guess maybe Anmol is not there. So, yeah, guys, never mind. This is what we wanted to cover in today's session. Where did the agenda go? All this is which we wanted to cover in the agenda. Today's session, we spoke about basics of Java. We spoke about how variables are created, declaration and initialization part, the type of variable, different types that we saw, Boolean, byte, short, int, long, char, string, float, double, array, and all. Okay. We saw their default values. We saw conditionals, the if else, nested if else, right? We saw loop, for loop, while loop, do while loop. And then we also cover the best coding practices. And additionally, we also talk about public static void main, the main method in general. And we also covered nested loops. Okay. Any questions from whatever we have covered? I hope all of you were able to understand it. Okay, awesome then. It seems you guys were able to understand. I am really glad. I'm really glad you guys were able to understand everything. And if you have any questions related to Java, please feel free to reach out to me. All right. I guess I'll be taking your entire class for this week. So yeah, we can discuss it in the next class also. If like you go back, you practice, and you realize that there is something that you haven't, or there's something that you don't know. Okay, there's something that you did not understand. So we can discuss it in the next class also. No worries. Okay, there's a question: how to compare JavaScript and Java. So Ishwar, I am not sure if there is any platform which can compare two programming languages. Okay, you will have to do it on your own research. So see, what you will have to do is that, see, consider that you are suppose reading a topic about variable, right? So how was I telling you that, see, in JavaScript that is how you write a variable var a, but in Java this is how you write a variable. So any topic that you are covering, you will have to check for both Java and JavaScript. That is how you can compare. I am not sure if there is any material for that. Maybe you can check on YouTube. There would be I guess there would be some video, but it will not cover entirely. Okay, to know entirely, you will have to do that thing. All right. Okay, then. Thank you guys for being great audience. See you in the next class. Over to you, Kirti.
Sure. Thanks, Soumya. That was a great session.
Thank you. Good night, all of you.
Cool. So let's get started on the problem statement, folks. So, yeah. So the problem session for today is, let me share my screen before. hmm Yes. So can you guys see my screen? Perfect. Perfect. Thanks. Thanks for the cheer. Cool. So this is my schedule. This is the problem statement. Okay. So meanwhile, let me drag it to another screen so that I can keep watching what is the responses as well. Yeah. So this is a problem statement that we have to write a Java program to find the average of three subject of a student, and then we have to take input of the marks of the student, like take user input of student name along with the marks of each subject. Means you have to take input of the name along with that the marks. Okay. And then you have to also, when you are done with that, then you have to print the name of the students and what all marks you actually entered in the second step, and then the average as well. Cool. And post that is done, then you have to also average, like you have to also print the average of the student up to two precision places. And yeah, that's that. And after this is done, then you can do something called as exception handling, where like you have to handle the cases where, like, let's say for example, here we are expecting the marks to be in number but someone enters like characters, then essentially That will be an exception because we are reading something like next int, and essentially when it will not be an integer, it will throw an exception, number format exception. So like if someone enters like apart from number something else, then in that case we have to tell them that okay, you are expected to always enter for, for marks number. So that kind of exception handling we have to do. Okay. So something of sorts like this. Okay. And if you see, like, there is a snippet added which actually tells you okay how the things will look like in the end. So you will be entering the name of the student and the marks of the student, and then essentially it'll render the name of the student and the subject marks and post that the average up to two precision places. Okay. So that's what essentially is supposed to be done. So first of all, let me share the code, then I'll explain the code to you guys, and you guys can also run on your own. So this is the code, and now let's go to the code. So I usually use VS Code to do the coding. Like that's my favorite editor, even for Java and for JavaScript. So like that's like it's very easy to even run Java here as well. Like it shows like a run on the just above the main method. So that way it is pretty snazzy, and I'll recommend that you can also give it a try. So like if you see, I have simply declared a main method. Inside that every logic is there. I have created a student class and nothing fancy here. I have declared a name variable which is of type string for the name of the student, and then three integer variables for three of the subjects. Okay. And then I will also tell okay what all I have done and why I have done and so on and so forth. But meanwhile, if you guys still have any confusion, please do let me know. Okay. So you can see that okay, I have declared three integer marks for each subject, and that I have done because I am assuming that marks will always be in a whole number. Like no one will give like something of sort like 30.5 or 30.8. So that kind of assumptions I have just ignored, and I have made sure that okay, the subject marks will always be in integer. And then post that the average, as you can see that even it is expecting that the average should be like a floating point number with two precision. So that's why I have taken it as a double. So double, as you might have already seen that Soumya today has taught you, that it is a double precision photo floating point number, and the float is a single precision floating point number. So by default, the double persist the number still 2 point, and then the float always persists till 1 point. So that's what the difference also is. Like it is a single precision float, and double is a double precision. Okay. So that's where I have taken the average, like the average as double. And then as you might already recall that okay, you can only read input variables when you create a scanner instance, and there you pass the instance of system.input, and then with the interfaces of the scanner class like next int, next line, you can read these things from console, right? So that's where like I have created a scanner instance so that I can take input from user. Like the student has to enter his name and then the three subjects, right? Subject numbers. So for that I have created the instance of the scanner class, and that's how you are supposed to do. You create a scanner class where this is the reference. That's how you declare the reference, and then this is the way you create the object. Likewise, you like Soumya showed you, right, that how you can create an array. So on the same lines, you can create a object from scanner class, and this is the way. And you have to pass which is the source from where you are taking the input. So we are taking from system input. Console is called what? Console is system input. Like if you match the similar thing, so system output means the system's output is console, and likewise the system's input is also console. Like I want the data from the system's input, which is console. So anything which is coming from console or going to console is always supposed to be dealt with system class. That's a well-known class to Java ecosystem. And all the functionalities of that is residing in the system class. Okay. So that's where like when you create a scanner, this is the by default like this is a boilerplate code. Like this is a fixed like platter code. You don't have to make any changes here. If you create a scanner which is going to read data from console, that's how you are supposed to do it. Okay. So now after that, nothing fancy. I am just printing out okay, please enter your name, and then whatever the guy enters till the next line, that I will read and put it in the name. Now you can see that this I have put out of try block. Okay. So why I have put out of try block? because I am using the significantly generic interface to read anything. Like if you are mad enough and you want to give like your name as 123, I don't bother, because 123 is also a string in Java, and I will just read it and save in name. So if you are insane enough to enter in your name some numbers or some special characters, I just leave it at your judgment, because their Java is not going to throw exception. That's why I've put this part out of the try and catch block. Okay. And I am just reading whatever you enter as your name. Like some people might also have special characters in their name, like so some people write in Norwegian or Chinese, and they also have some Unicode characters. So for that sake, I have left it on the discretion. Okay, go crazy and input whatever name you want. I will read it and put it into the name. Okay. After that, for rest of the changes, like yeah, and I can also tell you that okay, you can write something called as scoped try catch and something called as non-scoped try catch, and I'll show you also when I'm going to like make some changes on the flow when we are going through this code, right? But okay, let's first go through whole of the code, and then we'll try to like scope down the try and catch, because I'll tell you what you should eventually enclose in try and catch and what you should not. Okay. So first of all, but let's see. So now after entering the name, we will want that okay, enter the subject 1 marks, then enter the subject 2 marks, and then enter the subject 3 marks, and that we will persist in three variable, which is subject 1, 2, and 3. And then we are essentially calculating the float average of that. Now you can ask, sir, what, like okay, this is a simple formula, like there is no fancy thing about that. I'm just simply adding the marks of three subjects and then dividing it by 3. And this is what, like this is something fancy. What is this? So this is called as typecasting in Java, when you want to change a number from integer to float. Because like ideally you might have heard that if there are two integers and you divide by them, the answer is always integer. So here, if I add three subjects and then divide by 3, it will always return the output in integer. But I don't want the in like the average to be integer, but I want to calculate the average till 2 point precision, right, of a decimal degree, right? So that's where I have typecasted it that okay, please do add, but when you are making a division, save that variable as a float. So that's called typecasting, means don't do the conversion to integer, but rather leave it to float and then assign it to average. That's called typecasting. Well, like ideally if I would not add that, like let's say for example, if you enter like 30, 30, and 31, so the average will be 30, because by default there is no, like by default when there is an addition or subtraction or division or multiplication in between the integers, the output is always produced also in integer. So it will always despite the response was in float in decimal, but still it will produce the output in the nearest possible integer. So that's where if you will not add the typecasting, it will change it to integer. So to avoid that, I have added a, like you have to just add a bracket and inside add a float. Float or double, anything is fine. Like any of the typecasting you can do. That is up to you. Means by default, people assume float is double as well. Means if you have declared the type as double, that it will understand this is just for typecasting. So nothing fancy here. Just to convert the integer output, like to actually avoid conversion, I have added this typecasting. Post that, nothing fancy. Printed the name, printed the subject 1, 2, and 3 as told, and then to print the float, by default the double is like it will show the output till 6 digits of the decimal number. Okay. Means after, like let's say if the number is 10 point, let's say for example, if you got three numbers of sorts like 30, 30, and 31, so your average will be 30.33333333. It will go on, right? So that's where like it will, like by default the doubles precision is still 6 digits, right? So to restrict it to 2 digits, this is what you use. So that's where you might have learned yesterday about like print ln, print, and then there was a print f, which is formatted string. So you can use formatted string where you put percentage point to f. Point to means precision, right? Precision. So only precise it to two digits of the decimal number. So that's where you will see that when we will calculate the precision, it will only show the output till two digits of the decimal point. And after that, like we have enclosed it in try catch, and then essentially if you enter something which is not a number, then it will throw that, okay, please enter integer values while entering the subject numbers. And after that what you can do is you can just close it. Okay, but now so if you run this program, this will run fine. If you just click on run here, and let's say, so here it will ask you like the student name. So let's say enter Abhinav. Okay, and let's say he got 50 marks in one subject, and then 51 in another subject, and then 50 in third subject. So if you see the output, it is 50.33, 2 point of the precision which it has already shown. Okay, and by default, I think if you remove, so my understanding is like if you simply leave it like that, it will go till 6 digit. So by default, that is the default thing. Like let's say if we do it again, and then 50, 51, and 50. So you will see the precision is still 6 digits, correct? So by default, the precision is still 6 digits. But if you want to limit it to 2 digits, so that's where you do 0.2. Okay, and you can read about more of what all formatting capabilities Java gives. So there is a very good article from Baldang. He's a guy who keeps on writing Java tutorials. So I follow him for some of the doubt related which I have on Java. So you can also read about it, how many ways you can format. And the format is only not limited to floating point or decimal numbers, but it is also extended to Boolean, date, and string formatting. So you can do a lot of formatting. So all he has covered in thorough sense here. So formatting output with printf in Java. So you can read here, and then you can get a sense, okay, what sort of formatting is available. Okay, now actually I told you, right, that this is something which is okay, but okay, let me stop. So is there any confusion in this code? And finally is doing nothing, it is just closing this scanner. So ideally it will open a stream to the system input. So you are expected to put a close on this scanner. You should ideally do that. Otherwise, you will have some lay memories present in your compiler, which you won't want. Ah, so this is something which is mandatorily required. So you should always do that. Nothing fancy here as well, right? So if there is any confusion in this code, I can take up the question. Yeah. Do you get it? Is it still confusing? Do you have some problem? Is it not making sense? Please let me know. Okay, it is making sense. Good, 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 good. Okay, so I think okay, then if there is any confusion or any questions, I can take it. Otherwise, we'll move forward. I'll tell you what is the problem with this code, and then we will also try to modify it a little. Okay. So okay, I'm taking silence as like you guys have no problem. So I'll tell you, okay, what is the problem with this code? Okay. So the problem with this code is that, let's say for example, like if you guys are very clear about try catch code flow, so what is that is like by default, like let's say for example, if like as soon as I entered the name of Abhinav and I added his first subject detail, which was 50, and let's say for the second subject, I, rather than adding 51, I added, like let's say A. So in that case, it will throw an exception, and rather than going to the next line, it will directly reach out here, and then it will exit the program. So at least for it will not even ask for the second, like let's say for example, if someone made a mistake and it only entered for first and second subject, so at least it should show, okay, what is the average, right? Which it will not do. Like I'll tell you what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, I'll show you. So let's say if we rerun this, and let's say if we entered Abhinav, and then I entered 50 here, but for the next subject I entered A. So this will simply tell, okay, please enter integer value only, and the program aborted. But let's say for example, if I want to make it a little better, what do I mean by better is that let's say for example that like what do I mean by that is that okay, let's say for example if someone entered here something and then here a wrong input, and then for third someone entered something else. So in that case at least it should calculate the average of three subjects with this as default 0. At least it should do something of that sort. Like I want to tell you okay how you can use something called a scoped try catch, because if you see, right, so these things are plain code which are never going to throw exception. Like this is something which can never throw exception. Like if you will use some advanced uh, compilers and editors in future, like java like sorry what is that name, IntelliJ IDEA or JetBrains, then in that case they can tell you also which part of your code can throw exception, and that's where they will also nudge you to add try catches there. Okay, so there if you like, they will also tell you that okay, you should not add this part because this is something which is not prone to throw exception ever. Like this can never throw exception. This part of code should, like this can be even moved out of, like I had put this out, right? So even these code can also be put out of exception, because these code, like these lines of code cannot throw exception. So ideally what you should do is you should always have a narrow scoped exception, means that only you should add that part into the exception which is actually bound to throw exception. Okay, so if you just get like delete this from here, and if you move it out here, so in that case, and what is the problem? Sub1 may not be initialized. Okay, yeah, so let's initialize it with 0. Okay, now it is cool. So now if you see, so those part of code which cannot throw exception, we have moved it out, because that is something which cannot throw exception. Okay, so in that case, now definitely like what it will do now if you see this code, okay, so what it will do is that, like if you enter for first subject something, it will store here, and if you enter something wrong here, then it will exit out, but it will take the average, and it will put for the next set of subjects 0 0 as the subject value, and then that's where it will take out the average. Like let's say for example for first if it is 50, then in that case, uh, like for the next if you enter something which is wrong, it will put 0 here, and even for third also it will put 0, and then it will calculate the average. But even this is also not so better. Like you can assume, sir, that okay, I wrongly input for this at least something wrong, but I should have been given a chance to even enter for this as well, right? So why I am like, when I'm making a mistake here, why I am even like what you call, like punished for not even adding data for third thing. So you can even make it better, and you can like you can exclusively catch exceptions for like you can exclusively catch exceptions for particular block of the code. So what do I mean by that is you can have separate try catches for each, so that like you are not punished unevenly, right? So like you can make something like 1 minute. So let's say please enter integer value for subject 1. Okay, you can do something like this. Okay, so that's where you will never be punished, and you will be able to enter for all your subjects despite if you enter some wrong value. So you have to just modify it something like this. I'm just making some copy paste, nothing sort of very catchy code. So subject 2, and if you see, so if you see now here, you are not going to be unlikely punished. And if you say, let's say correctly enter for this subject 50, like what I did here is, first let's understand that. So I split whatever the exception throwing code is, I gave everything a separate try catch block. right? So that's like the narrowest try catching possible for a exception, and that's what is recommended when you are dealing with exceptions. Like you should not encompass a big chunk of code in try catch, in that if 70% of the code cannot throw exception, like that is not recommended. You should always have the try catch block in a very narrowest possible way, so that gives you the optimal user experience. Like here, if you see that if you enter some garbage value for subject 1, still it will give you the chance to correctly enter value for subject 2 and 3, and based on two subject it will calculate the average, which might not be right, but at least it will not disrupt your user flow. That way it is good, right? So if you see, that's what we have done, and that's what is advised by Java as well, that always you should create try catch block very narrow scope. Like only add try catch block, like this code can throw exception, this is the only code which can throw exception. So you should always add the try catch in the narrowest possible way. Means even you can put this line out of the try catch block as well, that is also completely fine. That is also completely fine. Means try catch should always be added in the most narrowest form as possible. Okay. So you see, like here, like now if I do, I will not be interrupted in middle. Like let's say if I run again, so if I enter, let's say Abhinav, and if I enter for the first subject 50, and for the next if I added A, oops, what happened? 1 minute. Okay, I think it took older one. We have to rerun. We have to rerun from here. Sorry. So if I make a run from here, so Abhinav, and then 50, and then A. Okay, this is tricky. Let's understand what is the problem. So I am, ideally it should run, but it's not taking even output for third one, which is, it is telling that it, okay, somehow it is asking for third, like it is asking, but it is not asking me to enter that value. Somehow it is skipping. I'm not sure why, uh, which is a little tricky. Let's try again. So if you see, like it is asking for the third subject mark, but somehow like it is not like allowing me to enter, which I am not sure why, which is tricky. 50, let's say, and let's enter A. Okay, let's add a space. Okay, it is asking for third subject mark, but it is not stopping there, and it is only ideally, means, okay, my, I'm not sure if it is a problem with Java compiler of VS Code, but ideally if you run with Java C it will stop. Like if you enter run with Java and Java C, it will stop here, and it will ask for third integer. Like if you do a narrow scoping of try catch, then in that case it will always stop. Means here I am not sure if it is a problem with VS Code compiler of Java, but yeah, that's why it is asking for third subject, but it is not stopping there, and it is just moving away. So which is a little absurd, but okay. Okay, means ideally with a Java compiler of like good capacity, I'm hoping that it should work fine. So recommended way is to always add try catch to like the most narrowest code snippet which is expected to throw exception. Like that's what the expectation is. And this is how like you should also write your code usually. And yeah, otherwise, yeah, that's what I wanted to tell, and that's how you should modify your code. So I will add that also as part of the notepad so that you have a reference of that as well. And narrow scoped assignment. Okay, so you can have both, and then you can try both. Okay, so that's it. If you guys still have any questions or confusion, I can take it. Otherwise, yeah, that sums up the assignment for today. If you don't get anything like why is this, why is that, and why is this done, why is that done, why you didn't do this, why you didn't do that, I can probably take those questions. Like if there is any confusion. Hello, am I audible? It's like all good. Give me a cheer if it made sense. Cool, 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 cool. So, okay, so I'm assuming that there are no confusions, and it is pretty like, yeah, the assignment was pretty straightforward. So I'm hoping that, yeah, you guys understood it well, and then like there is no confusion at all. So yeah, like this what parts it cover. So first of all, it covers the part where how you can read something from input and then use in your program. This is one of the part where you are told, okay, how you are going to use a scanner class, and you are already aware that scanner is part of util package, and then from there it is imported, and that's how you add a scanner and 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 yeah, like use it to get variable from console. So apart from that, it also tell you how you can catch exceptions and manage, and then print output to inform user, okay, what he has done wrongly. And also it covered one part where like it also covered formatting, how you can use formatting to do precision of like floating point numbers. Okay, so those three part, and also like to some extent it also covered like typecasting as well. So you can go and read about what is typecasting in Java. Okay, so yeah, that's it. So yeah, that sums up the assignment. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I am assuming that yeah, it was beneficial to you guys. Okay, folks, then yeah, enjoy. Have a great day. Have a sumptuous lunch. Sorry, dinner. And yeah, please take care of yourself. Bye bye.